is my super suit? Why do you need it? Just tell me what my suit is, woman! Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Nile, and this is WNBA Weekly. And if you're not familiar with this show, what I do is I recap the action from the past few days and talk about what's coming up in the next few days. And along the way, I sprinkle in some of my own personal opinions. So without further ado, let's start with this weekend's action. First of all, you had Friday night, Tina Charles, she had a 20-point game, but Pondexter was held scoreless. She was 0-5 on the night, while Nneka, she led the Sparks with 15 points, 9 rebounds, and also added 3 assists and 3 steals as the Sparks get a win. Then Kayla McBride, she was only 1 of 3 from the field, but she was 10 of 10 from the free throw line, and she led the Stars with 13 points. But the Storm had 4 players in double figures, led by 19 from Shikenna Strickland. As the Storm, they grab a win. And then Fowles, she continues playing big. She led her team with 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks. But the Mercury had all 5 starters in double figures, including double-doubles from both Griner and Dupree, as the Mercury win their 9th straight game. Then on Saturday, the Fever, once again, they had 4 players in double figures, led by 14 points from Catchings and a double-double from Larkins. But the Dream, they had 5 players in double figures, led by 21 from Hayes and the Souza double-double, as Atlanta, they grabbed their 3rd straight win. Then for the Shock, Glory Johnson, she had a big game, leading the way with 20 points and 11 rebounds. But the Mystics had 6 different players scoring double figures. Meeseman and Lotta tied to lead the team with 15 points apiece, while Vaughn and Curry, they both had double-doubles. As the Mystics, they lit up the Shock for a dominating win. Souza has now dropped 4 games in a row. And then on Sunday, first of all, you had 2 televised games. First, you had sister versus sister, as Shikenna led the Sun with 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. But Nneka led the Sparks with 24 points. Candace Parker 1 rebound short of a double-double. And not to mention Jantel Lavender. I mean, she was second on the team with 19 points. She's really starting to be a player that you have to pay attention to, because with all the focus being on Nneka and Parker, she's putting together a long string of games where she's scoring double figures. She's had a few double-doubles as well. I mean, she's making her presence known on the floor. So now, and in this game especially, the Sparks, they dominated the second half. The Sun have now lost 3 in a row. Then Maya Moore, she didn't score her first points until 4 minutes left in the half, but she dominated in the second half, specifically the third quarter mostly, and she ends up leading the team with 26 points and 12 rebounds. The Lynx win their 3rd straight game. And then Kayla Alexander comes off the bench to lead the Stars with 11 points, but the Mercury had 4 players in double figures, led by 19 from Dupree. As the Mercury, they were in control the whole game. They hang on to win their 10th straight, the first team this season to win double-digit games consecutively. Usually it's the Lynx. We might have a new powerhouse this season. Let's see what they do in the playoffs. And then in the last game of the weekend, you had Allie Quigley coming off the bench to lead the team with 27 points, while Fowles, she added another double-double, 17 points, 14 rebounds, and leading the team with 4 blocks. But McCautry and Little both had double-doubles. Little, 12 points, 13 rebounds, and McCautry led the team with 33 points, also added 10 rebounds. The game goes into overtime, and free throws were a big story. Epiphany Prince went to the line with about 4 seconds left in the 4th quarter, and she goes 1 of 2, so the game is tied and it goes into overtime. And then Tiffany Hayes, she hits 2 clutch free throws to give Atlanta a 2-point lead, and Chicago was just not able to convert after that, and so Atlanta hangs on for the win, which is their 4th straight, while the Sky, it's their 5th straight loss. And so after all of that excitement, here are the current standings. Also, if you didn't get to watch the game on Sunday, Strickland of the Seattle Storm, she took a really hard fall. They're saying it's a neck injury. She didn't lose any consciousness. She was still moving around, but she had to be carried off the court on a stretcher. As of right now, I have no news to update you on. So here are all the games that are going to be played this week. Starting on Tuesday, you have Connecticut at Seattle at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Seattle, they've struggled on the road, and they've only won 1 game against the Western Conference. But that 1 win was against Seattle. Then again, it was their first win of the season back in May, and that was in Connecticut. And Connecticut has still struggled on the road, while Seattle, they're a much better team at home, and just overall they're playing much better at this point in the season. Then you got a doubleheader on ESPN2. The first one, Los Angeles at Indiana at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Both of these teams actually have a better record on the road than they do at home. Both of these teams have been playing better lately, but they've both been playing great defense, but the Sparks, they're a little bit better offensively in my opinion. Though Nneka Catching's coming back, that's definitely lifted the fever on both ends of the floor. It'll be interesting to watch, if nothing else. Then you got Washington at Phoenix at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Washington, they're playing their 4th straight road game against a team that has won 10 games in a row and is 8-1 at home all season long. Then on Wednesday, you got Atlanta at New York at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New York desperately trying to climb out of last place. They faced each other twice this season, with the home team winning every time. Atlanta, though, they've won their last 3 road games, but their last road loss did come against New York. Then you got Tulsa at Minnesota at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Lynx, they've dominated the Shock so far this season, and both of those wins came in Tulsa, and now they're playing in Minnesota, where the Lynx are currently 10-1 on the season, while the Shock, they're 3-7 on the road. You don't get to last place by accident. Then on Thursday, you've got San Antonio at Tulsa at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Stars, they've been struggling lately, but they're still holding on to that 3rd spot in the West. Meanwhile, the Shock, they're 2-0 against the Shock this season. Even though they've been struggling lately, they're still one of the better road teams in the league. Also, on a side note, this has nothing to do with basketball, but I'm kind of noticing, just based on the 3 people that I've met from Minnesota in my life, I'm starting to notice that just like Texas is basically just northern Mexico, Minnesota is basically just southern Canada, isn't it? Okay? Then you got Chicago at Indiana at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Fever still have a better record on the road. They split their meetings with Chicago. Chicago, they won the first time. It was the season opener. They only won by 3 points. They had Della, Don, and Sloot, but they didn't have Fowles and Prince. And even more importantly, the Fever didn't have Catchings. Then you've got Connecticut at Phoenix at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the last time they played was in Connecticut, where the Sun, they won by 1 point. And the Mercury have been undefeated since then. And meanwhile, the Sun, they're currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they're still have a losing record on the road. So even though they won the last game, it was only by 1 point, and it was in Connecticut. And then last but certainly not least, you have Washington at Los Angeles at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Both of these teams are on 2-game winning streaks. Both of these teams have losing records at home. It's hard to say what to expect. All I know is it's the very last game before the All-Star game on Saturday, which there will be more information for that on Friday. But until then, that's it for this edition of WNBA Weekly. This has been the Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle, and I had s'mores for breakfast.